Let's talk about circles. So we are going to be graphing and writing the equations of circles, which means you need to know the center radius form of a circle. And that is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Notice that each little set of that is squared, and you have a plus here, but minuses on the inside. Okay? And that means our center is HK and our radius is just R. And we'll talk about how we'll figure that out here in just a second. So let's look at our first example. It says find the center and radius of the circle using the following equation, then graph the circle. So our equation is x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared equals 4. What I want you to think about is almost, now this is not exactly what it is, but it's almost like finding the zeros. Okay, so the way you find the x value and the y value is to take what is inside this parentheses and set it equal to 0. So if I have x minus 1 equals 0 and I solve that, I get x equals 1. That's your x value of the point that is the center. Then I take y plus 2 and I set it equals to 0 and I subtract 2. That gives you y equals negative 2, which is the y value of the point that is the center. So the center is going to be 1, negative 2. Okay? Now your radius comes from this number, but is almost never that number unless that number is 1. Okay? What you need to know is that number on the right is really r squared. So r squared is 4. How do we solve this for r? And this is where we take the square root. So we're doing the square root there and the square root here, which gives me r is equal to the square root of 4, which is 2. Now, if you know how we've done square root property in the past, you would normally put a plus minus here, but you don't have to really worry about this because this is kind of a measurement. And so we want just the positive version here. So radius here is 2. Now, how do I graph this? Well, I'm telling you how to graph using our system of Canvas and Lumen here at my university. Your graphing system may be a little bit different, but here's what you're going to think about when you're graphing. First, you're going to make sure you click the circle button, okay, the circle icon. Then we're going to graph the center first. So we want to go to the point 1, negative 2. 1, negative 2 would be right here. We're going to actually click that point. Even though that's not on the circle, that helps us get to the circle. That helps us figure out what to do from there. The radius is the distance from the center to the outside in every direction. Okay, so the easiest way to do this is to take that radius of 2 and count up 2 units from the center. So we're going to go up 2 units, 1, 2, and we're going to click. And that makes another point. Now in our system, it will magically make the circle from there because it knows where the center is, it knows how far away from the center it needs to go, and it will continue on making the circle. However, I'm having to manually graph this, obviously on a computer, so we're going to continue on. So that means that I'm going to go up 2, but now let's go left 2 units, so 1, 2. Let's go down 2 units, and let's go right 2 units. And this just kind of gives me a guide of points where I can draw a circle. Now, I'm not an artist, nor am I good at drawing circles, so please don't judge what I'm about to draw, okay? So, let's draw a circle. I have some colleagues that are amazing at this. They can just draw the perfect circles on the board. I am not that person, okay? That wasn't terrible, but it could be better. So this is what the computer is going to draw. And again, it only really draws it in our system from the center and this point. That's really all that's needed. Okay? So center first and then count up the number that is the radius and you're good to go there. Let's look at our other example, which is kind of finding the reverse. So this has find the center, radius, and equation of the circle in center radius form for the given graph. So center radius form is this generic form that I've given you here, okay? So I've been given a graph. I think let's find the center first. That's what it's asking for first. So we already have the point on there. If you don't have the point on there, count from one side to the other the number of units and divide it in half. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So if I count down 1, 2, 3 units, I get that. Okay, so sometimes it is kind of hard to see the center, especially if they don't put a point, but that's an easy way to do it. We have a point in this case though, so that point is -3, 2. So we have the point -3, 2. All right, what you just have here is actually the radius. The radius is from the center to the outside. So again, if you don't want to do what I just did, go from the center and count up however many till you get to the circle. So we've got 1, 2, 3 units. That's going to be your radius. So your radius is 3. Okay? So now we're going to use this standard form, the center radius form of a circle, to write the equation. And I'm going to put a line above and then we'll write our final form. So we've got x minus h. H is the x value. Okay, this is not trying to trick you. You're just putting the x value here. So this would be x minus -3. Really, you're just changing the sign there. Squared plus y minus the y value, which is 2. That's k. Squared equals r, which is 3 squared. Okay, now simplify this. So obviously 2 negatives are going to make a positive. So this would be x plus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 3 squared, which is 9. Okay, and that would be the final answer for the equation. I do want to make a quick note here. If you want to be able to go kind of, not that this is that much quicker, but if you want to go quicker with this, sometimes it's easier to just see that if this is -1, then your center is +1 for the x value. If this is +2, that's -2. You're really just changing the sign. So if your center is -3 and I go backwards to put it inside the formula, that's going to be +3. You're changing the sign. If I have +2, -2. Okay? So that's one quick trick to maybe help just go directly to the center or to the equation.